Hello and welcome, everyone. How is everyone doing? Today, I and Kapil will be hosting. All other are busy. Ashish is traveling, and a few other folks. So this week it will be me and Kapil who will be hosting you for the session. So, and while we are waiting for everyone to join, let's start with a icebreaker question, like Ashish does everyone every time. Tell us, where are you in your AWS certification journey? Have you got your AWS Cloud Practitioner certification, or have you got your AWS Solution Architect Associate certification? Are you planning for any of these certifications or any other certifications, or are you doing any mock practice papers for these certifications? Let us know, where are you in your certification journey, and we'll get started in few minutes. Oh wow, essay done, PD, great. Preparing for essay, Anupama, that's awesome. Oh, great. Done with say trying to get certified by the end of July, Rinku. That's awesome. So few people are preparing for Solution Architect Associate certification. And Rupa has Cloud Practitioner certification. Great. Awesome. It's a good mix. Some people have already got certifications, and some people are actually preparing for certification. Is there anyone who is still, need to get started with their certification journey? If yes, you have so many other people whom you can reach out to, who can help you guide. And for that, what we are thinking is that let's start a Discord server for everyone who is in BeSA. So we are starting a Discord server as a community for everyone to join and communicate with each other. So hopefully that will be helpful. Let me do one thing. Let me add the Discord group link here in the chat window for everyone to join. Oh, it came from Algis Cloud. Good, I'm logged in with that. Let me put it from here. Cool, yes, this is the right link. So do join the Discord channel and let's collaborate with each other. I know LinkedIn, it might get difficult when you ask questions because it does not notify people, and it actually, does not have that level of collaboration that we can have on our Discord server. And we have been thinking about it for some time to do it, but we never had the bandwidth, and we thought this is a good time to actually start and see. And it's a purely, for community and driven by community. So please feel free to interact with each other and help each other. Awesome. With that, let's get started. This session would be in two parts. The first part, me and Kapil will be doing a role play for a mock interview. Okay, all the technical trainers are busy this week, so we thought let's switch gears and do more behavioral. And uh, obviously, we'll continue doing the certification questions as Kapil has been doing, but we will allocate more time for the certification questions. And the last technical topic that is remaining, we will be covering it in the next week when the trainers that we have will be back. So this week we'll be focusing more on behavioral, and we thought let's do it in two parts. The first part would be more of a role play for a solutions architect behavioral interview. We'll not be able to have time to do the full-fledged interview of 1 hour, but we'll try and do a smaller version, mock version of it with one or two questions in it. And then we'll also do a debrief about how the interview went, what we can do better, both from the interviewee perspective and from the interviewer perspective. And then in the second half, we will be switching gears and doing some certifications questions for Solution Architect Associate certification. Okay, awesome. There are a few people, it seems like Discord server is saying unable to accept the invitation. So we'll have to check with that. I see a lot of people are able to join Discord. But yes, I see that uh, there is. Give me one sec. I see the automation that we have done, Dino. It seems to be adding a lot of extra links. Let me see if I can get it disabled. Hopefully that should be fixed. Yeah, even we are using Discord for the first time, so initially it might be a bit of glitches, but hopefully we'll be able to sort it out as soon. Uh, so here is the link for the Discord. It was there in the chat previously. Okay, without further ado, let's start. Even before getting into the mock interview, there are a few things that we will do it as a role play. So, Kapil, should we get started?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Prashad. And hello, everyone. Nice seeing the responses in the chat. Good to know that you are in journey. Either you have passed the certificate or you are planning for the CCP or the Solution Architect Associate. In whatever journey you are, I think today's session is going to benefit all of you just to understand what to expect from a solution architect interview in journal with AWS. So what we are going to do, as Prasad has explained, that there is the two parts. First part, we will do the kind of mock interview, and the second part, as usual, like last week, we will cover the practice questions. So before we even start the mock interviews, I want to understand from Prasad a kind of hiring manager perspective, or the like how a solution architect role look like in AWS, and if you can little bit talk more about a depth that what a candidate should expect, should check before applying to a solution architect role.
Sure, we'll do that. And what best way to do it than searching on Amazon.jobs, right? So let me share my screen. So to best way to understand any job role that you're applying for is to go through a few of the job descriptions, right? So let me see if I should be, yeah, hopefully this will be better. So I went to just Amazon.jobs and search for solutions architect, and you would see there are a lot of like roles that are there, and they would be like ranging from uh, solutions architect uh, to senior solutions architect. If you scroll further, there might be some principal solutions architects or solution architects at various levels, and they would be for different industries. Like this for enterprise, this is for startups. They would be specific for like healthcare services. They would be uh, different kinds of specialization also, like for example gen AI, public sector. Obviously every solution, there'll be a bit of a nuances between each of these roles, but let's look at a generic solutions architect role and see what the job description says, right?
Yeah, Prasad. Yeah.
Cool. Now if you look at the description, so AWS sales marketing global services, so this is one of the business unit at AWS. There are multiple like business units. One of is SMS SMGS, and they talk about their specific thing, and then they talk about what should they expect from the person. Do you love being part of tackling new business challenges using cutting edge technology? Now, see, the point is new business challenges. Those solutions architect is a technical role, but it's all about tackling the business challenges. So solutions architect, I always say, is an amalgamation of technical skills as well as your consulting skills and behavioral skills. So because you work very closely with the customers, and that's where tackling business challenges is always important. So it's always about understanding what the customer problem is, what the business requirements are, and going back from there. So when the interview would be happening, it will be about showcasing that skills along with the technical skills. So there will be a technical interview, there will be a technical phone screen that will happen, But then as you go further in the interview process, there would be behavioral interviews which will be focusing mainly on your behavioral skills. Like for example, do you have a history of creatively solving traditional business challenges? So see how great this line is. W- Whatever experience you have, 2 years, 4 years, 5 years, 10 years, what interviewers would be looking for to see that have you been able to identify business challenges, and have you been able to solve them, or help them resolve, and can you do it at a pace and a scale? That's also really important, because as solutions architect we touch globally multiple customers. So can we do it at pace and at scale? Then it talks more about the specific role that this is with our enterprise customers, and like primarily in Sydney. So this is where your specific changes, and it might be a startups, enterprise, where exactly the role is. Talks more about few of the things, but let's see this line here. AWS Solutions Architect possess customer facing skills that allow us to represent. So customer facing skills is really important, right? Customers environment drive discussions with senior personals. So you should be having those consulting skills where you are able to actually interact with the senior either C-level executives or leadership or department head at your customers, as well as technical background. So see, the focus is more on business customer facing skill, and along with that, technical skills are there. So technical skills are given that you are a technical person, but on top of it, you need to have those, you know, customer facing skills and business acumen. Then it talks about more here are the sorry, Kapil, you have any questions here?
No. Please go on.
Perfect. Um, some of the qualities that they are looking for, they talk about few things. They're the key job responsibilities. So you see there's a lot of information that is generally provided in a job description which will help you to understand. uh, First thing is to ensure that your resume reflects those, that it gets shortlisted. And secondly, while you are preparing, if you understand this, you'll be able to frame your answers accordingly or prepare your answers accordingly. But what I'll, because I will not have time to go through the entire job description, but I encourage everyone to read the entire job description for whichever job you're applying for. Not only about Amazon, it for be any company worldwide, whether it's a small startup to a big FANG company, everyone have a lot of information available in their job description. Let's talk about this basic qualification and preferred qualification. So as we saw, it's a solutions architect role. Um, and let me tell about AWS. We have 4 levels, more than 4 levels. But if we look at the very basic starting, it's L4. We call it associate solutions architect. Then we have L5 solutions architect. Then we have L6 senior solutions architect. Then we have L7, that is principal solutions architect. So this seems to be more a solutions architect role, right? So for the basic qualifications, it seems 4 years of specific technology domain, whether it is software development, cloud computing, system engineering, infrastructure. So you need to have some technology domain, around 4 years of experience at least. 2 years of design and implementation. This is where your architecture skills comes into picture, right? You have at least 2 years of design implementation or consulting in applications infrastructure experience, and then 4 years of IT development or implementing. So overall, you need 4 years plus experience, and out of which, if you have 2 years of design and consulting experience, you are eligible for this. And that's pretty much the basic qualification is. It does not ask you for uh, AWS certification or AWS skills. Of the, it says software development, cloud computing. In case if you have cloud computing, it's great. If not, it is fine. Systems engineering, infrastructure, whichever it is fine. I see there's a question. Is coding proficiency not needed for solutions architect? It's a good to have, not must have. It's great to have, right? It always gives you an edge if you have a coding experience, or if you are a great programmer, but it's not a requirement. Minimum, I generally say that at least learn some scripting. That really helps, especially when it comes to automation and stuff. It really helps. So do learn from scripting. But in case if you do not have experience with like Java or .NET, it's completely fine. Having it is definitely a plus. Now, salary range, Suman, it differs very much depending upon the geography that you are applying for, depending upon the level you are applying for, beginning of, it it varies drastically, very frankly. But it's a decent, good paying role, right? So you can expect that the salary range would be uh, competitive.
Prashad, I would like to understand there is a two things that comes across whenever somebody is looking at the Amazon is like leadership skills. So when we talk about the solution architect role, can you specify which are the top two or three skills that you always look for?
Sure. Before that, let me just talk about preferred qualifications, and then I'll come to your question. Uh,
Sure.
in the preferred qualification, if you see, the basic is this: preferred is experience working with software development or internet related stories. It's similar to that. Experience migrating and transforming legacy customer solutions to cloud. If this is something that you have done, definitely you'll be having edge showcase in your resume. Or experience working with AWS technologies. As I see, most people here are either having AWS certification or preparing for AWS certification, which is great. So it seems that you have some level of knowledge of AWS. So it will be good to highlight, but always remember that it's a double-edged sword. If you have only certification without the knowledge, um, interviewer would feel that you know things and they will ask you questions, and if you're not able to respond, it will be a negative thing. So it might be good for resume shortlisting, but in case if you have not done the hands-on, you just got the certification by like going through the theory or videos, it might get difficult during the interview process. That's why I suggest, and we all suggest, that do as much hands-on experience as possible. That's on the technical side. Now Kapil touched on a very important thing about leadership principles. So Amazon has multiple leadership principles. Oh, come on, not here. Yeah, yeah. So now we have these leadership principles, and all of them are really important in terms of the way day to day we operate at uh, AWS and at Amazon. Few of the leadership principles that I look for when I do interviews for a solutions architect role. First is learn and be curious. And this is really important because technology keeps changing at a very fast pace. And as a solutions architect, we need to, though we are technical people, but we need to keep ourselves up to date. So that's what something I look for, that, okay, you don't know a specific technology, no problem at all, but how fast can you learn it? And are you curious enough to know what is happening in the industry and keeping yourself up to date? Customer obsession is something that we all look for. That are you looking what the customer problem is and working backward from there to solve it? Other thing that I really look for is earn trust. Now, earning trust is again coming to that you would not be knowing everything. So in case if you're in a customer meeting and there would be questions that you will not be knowing things, how are you earning the trust of the customers, right? The way you interact with the customers, that customers would actually come to you for any information that they need, or they are able to uh, have that level of trust in you that they would be discussing with you any decisions that they are taking, right? Whether it is technology decisions, whether it is business decisions, are you able to become a trusted advisor for them? That's really important. It also depends upon the level that you are at, right? At what level you will be operating. For example, think big. Whenever I'm interviewing for a senior or a principal level, think big is really important, right? That when you are working with a specific customer, are you able to zoom out and see that the problem that you have solved for this customer, that there may be other customers who might be solving similar problems? Then are you able to create a repeatable asset, or are you able to create a framework that will be going to help not just one customer but multiple customers, that whether your impact is global and is at scale, right? So these are the few of the things that we look for, and it also depends upon the level that you're applying for, and also the specific role or the specialization that you're applying for.
Thank you, Prasad. That makes sense. One, since with respect to time, I'll quickly touch upon one question. There is a lot of talk about the bar raiser in the loop round. Can you specifically tell something about that too?
Cool. So at AWS, a loop that we call a series of kind of 5 interviews that happen 1 hour each generally, and most of them focus on behavioral. One of the interview, and you generally don't get to know, though you will be able to know it by uh, interacting with people, that who the bar raiser is. But bar raiser is the person generally who is not part of the direct team you're getting hired into. Amazon has multiple bar raisers, like a lot of people who go through this process of becoming a bar raiser, and they ensure that when you are joining AWS or Amazon, you're not joining for a specific role. You're joining because you are fit culturally and you exhibit these leadership principles, just to ensure that, see, the roles might be there for year or two or few years, right? But when you're joining the company, you're joining, we look for that the person is able to fit in for the long term. And if you exhibit these leadership principles, then you are culturally fit in a way that even if the specific role ceases, or the project is over, you would be able to work in any other team, in any other role, because the common values, the common leadership principles are same.
Thank you. It makes sense. So I think there is a lot of question, but with respect to time, we need to move on. I so I have fairly understanding now. You have given me the job role description. We have gone through that. We have understood the leadership principle. We have understood the bar raiser. It's look quite fascinating. I was always inclined to apply for the solution architect role. How can I be sure that I'm ready for this role?
Okay, now let's do a role switch, right? Now I'll ask you a question about how did you prepare, or how would you prepare for an interview? What things you would keep in mind while you are preparing for interviewing for a solutions architect role at Amazon, or in general as a solutions architect role, right?
Okay. That put me on. Okay, I'll try to best my answer this. So basically, when I look at or try to apply for any job, there is multiple phases. Like even before you apply or before the interview, you try to understand what the job role is. So, for example, as you shown the job description, and there was like working with cutting edge technology, working with the new business problem, working with the customer. So, for example, I am the person who love the hands-on coding. Then probably consulting job is not for me. So when I look at the job description, I'll make sure that I'm putting my time here, and I'm double sure that I want to do this role or not. So for example, I take myself, like I'm more a consulting role. I like to be in a customer space. I like to talk about the different technology, try out different things. So for that reason, I'm like probably apply for the solution architect role. When I'm sure about the solution architect role, what I'm going to do, then I look for the company culture. So each organization, take the example of Amazon itself, like we are heavily customer obsessed. Where take the example of the Google, they are more into result driven, and they are not like micromanaging. It's not that we are doing the micromanage in AWS or in Amazon, but each like big four companies has emphasis on different things. And it's like I can talk especially about the AWS and Amazon, that we it's our DNA, that uh, nothing can compromise the customer obsession and the ownership. So I'll look for that. If I like to be like, okay, end to end owning something and delivering it, and I'm very sure that there is no obstacle in that, and organization is supporting that, there is a new experiment culture that I can play around with the different tools and technology and try out my ideas, then that's encouraged me to apply for that role. So other than the job role, and then I'll look for the company culture. Then these two things I look at first when before applying it. So that's the first part. Once I apply it, then once I'm going to the interviews, then I look for that whom I'm meeting. For example, Prasad, you this time. So I'll probably do some research. So that's part of preparation. When you looked at the person in the LinkedIn, you got to understand, okay, what the background of this person, where he's graduated, what he's doing currently, and maybe like it's not necessarily that you are going to please him, but if you are framing your answer, for example, you are talking about generative AI in your recent conferences. That's my source. Like I have done some research about you, so that give like little bit common background, a common ground for you both to talk about, and maybe like it's about the likability. So if interviewers like you, the way you are talking, or the technology that you are learning or experimenting, it gives a little bit edge in terms of getting selected. So I think looking at the interviewee's role, what he's doing, that is also a, like kind of give you more confidence when you are appearing in it gives you feeling that you know the person beforehand. So that's my thing before appearing in the interview. So that's my preparation. um, I'll go a bit deeper and try to give the audience a bit how I approach the interview itself. So, for example, I got a question, then it not necessarily that you have to jump into the answer immediately. So, when you start your conversation, even before you speak, your interview starts. So, for example, you got a question, and now it's time to like understand the question, not jump to the question. Understand what the mindset of the interviewer is, what the depth and what the breadth interviewer is trying to cover. Ask clarifying question. It's fine if you are taking 5 or 7 minutes to understand that, and then start your questioning. Start your answering, and that's I think very crucial part of that. Then when we are dealing with for example leadership questions, like tell me the scenario when you do x or y z, then it's important then you do some role play, like get your mentor, talk to your peers, do the mock interviews. Basically you need to master the storytelling. And exactly I'm talking about the storytelling is like the interviewer needs to resonate, and he needs to understand step by step what you are trying to. So you are not talking for yourself, you are talking for the interviewee, and he need to understand the part of your stories. You need to take the pauses, you need to make eye contact, you need to do frequent checking, okay, that we are aligned, we are going in the same direction. And it is fine if interviewer corrects you here and there and bring you in the right path. That's how it's not interview, it's more about the conversation. That's my process in terms of doing the interviews. And once I'm going into the closer and I'm wrapping up, and so yeah, one more thing, like when you are wrapping up the interview, be prepared about the follow-up questions. I think interviewer will ask you follow-up question, what you learned from the this project or whatever you have told so far, and how will you do differently. These are the like most asked question that in interview will have. And once I'm concluding it, I'll not miss an opportunity to ask the follow-up questions. I'm eager. If I'm going to work in that particular role, in that particular team, I'm eager to learn more. That what this role look like, what is the day to day. Basically, what I want to get out of it is, if I'm getting selected, then I want have probing question to make sure myself that I'm going to join or not. So those kind of a few things that is not clear from my pre-work, something that is not clear during the interview, I try to probe and ask question and get clarify that whether I'm going to join this team or not. That's my preparation model.
Great, great. And I see some really good questions actually in the chat going on, just that we will not be having bandwidth. We already are half an hour into the session and we have not started the mock interview yet. So I think let's get into that. We'll skip the initial introduction bit of the mock interview that we planned, Kapil. Like we initially thought that we'll, like show how it starts, like, how our interviewer introduces themselves and how our interviewee introduces themselves, like keeping it short and stuff. But we'll skip all of that for now. We'll see if we can arrange something further later, because we just have around 15-20 minutes max. What we will do is that we'll jump directly into the question. Kapil, I'll shoot the question directly, and probably you can like start answering, and then we will yeah, just talk a bit about that. Cool.
Sure.
uh, but yeah, very interesting chat going on the side. I would love to answer each and every of that, but it's going to take a lot of time. Let's probably do, let's like take these questions into the Discord channel. Probably what we can do is that we can later on have this interaction about the interviews in the Discord channel. But here, uh, let's start. So thanks, Kapil, for your time. What we will do is that I'll ask you a more of a scenario-based question, and you can talk about your experience. And I would like you to, if possible, uh, uh, while talking about your experience, talk it in the star format, like what the situation was, what task it was, what action did you take, and what was the result overall. Okay, so tell me about a time when you actually went above and beyond your core responsibilities and taken additional responsibilities to help your customer.
Yeah, thank you, Prasad. Thank you for giving me opportunity. Just to make sure that I understand the question right. When you mean going above and beyond, you are expecting that when and how I have exceeded the expectations. That's basically your question is.
Yes, yes. When you did something that was more than expected from you, and so you exceeded the expectations. Yeah, that's a right way to put it in.
Thank you. Give me 10 to 15 seconds. I'll gather my thoughts on this and try to frame my narrative. So just give me 10 to 15 seconds.
Sure, take your time.
Yeah. So I'll come back to 2019. I was working for a bank in European Union, and bank was going for digital transformation. What that means in like early 2019, there was a project like open banking and PSD2. It's UK and Europe, where bank was supposed to open two APIs, account information and payment initiations API, to third party so that they can build the solution around it. And this was the legislation from the Dutch bank itself or from European Union. So it has a strict timeline that okay, this needs to be delivered in within this time frame. And basically the guidelines was that you need to open up the API before June 2019. And this is the more or less that project that I was working on, and I was responsible as a API management architect. I was responsible for the maintaining or design the platform so that we can expose the APIs, and that relates to everything about authentication, authorization, onboarding the API from the backend, and making sure that we have client facing platform to onboard the clients and everything. So I was made into the integration space where I supposed to design this integration platform. But to go a little bit further, this was the more the project, my role, and if I'll talk about some challenges that was we facing. So bank is not fast moving. It's not Amazon or Netflix or something. They have strict guidelines or the compliance, so they move very slow. And here we were expecting to do a great turnaround within 6 months, and otherwise we are liable to have the penalties. So the structure, if I'll define that, how the team is organized. So I was dealing with the team that is working on the API, basically creating the facade on the backend and try to expose to APIs. Then that is one dev team. Then we have my team where I was designing the platform. Then there is another team that is ensuring the authentication and authorization for the validation of the client. And then we have the infrastructure team, which is responsible for these deployments. And these are the four different teams. These comes under different chapter leads, and then we have a grid owner who is responsible for everything. But these teams never meant to work together. They have never worked in collaborative model. And here to deliver this project, it was very necessary that these teams collaborate. At the same time, bank was going from like agile to DevOps migration. and like it was like at least 2 3 years project, so we had no clue that how we are going to deal with that, in which phase which team is going to migrate to DevOps, and how we are going to coordinate. So this was the like kind of challenges around this.
So
So
just to ensure that I got the challenge right, uh, you were responsible mainly as a API integration architect to build out those APIs, and the bank was going through the transformation, and bank had multiple departments who had to work together, but they were not coordinating among each other. Is that right?
yeah, that's the
Okay.
basically challenge was.
Okay,
So
cool, cool. And I'm taking a lot of notes. It doesn't mean that I'm not listening to you. I'm listening to you. I'm just trying to catch up with my notes. But yeah, please continue.
yeah, thank you, Prashad. So this was the challenge, and I realized that this is not going to be on time delivery. So I sit with my like a grid owner and try to understand how can we do this. And since grid owner is like having the great exposure to the banking system, but digital transformation and opening up a API is very new for them, very new for him. He was not fully aware that what it means to first time open up the banking, and he was like little bit a spectacle that why we are even doing that. So I sit with him. I'll try to make a plan that how we are going to do that. So basically what I did is I basically did a half day workshop first with all the 3 or 4 teams, and try to make out like clear that what the expectation of each team is, where we are heading, what is the large goal, and then get buying in for all the stakeholders, basically all the chapter leads, all the teams that was owning it. One of the great challenge that I had is with the infrastructure team, because they have like run book. You need to, if you are going to launch anything, I need a 4 weeks and this many documentation and everything. So that was not scalable, and at least not in this project for sure. There was no cloud culture, there is no embedded team. So I have to work on these things. So once I did the workshop, then I created a plan that, and created a kind of statement of work for each team. Then I had at least weekly meeting with the stakeholders to track the progress of each team, and they each a chapter lead having daily scrum to understand what's going on daily basis. We created the service level agreement for each team to understand that if they are releasing something, they cannot go blind. They need to take care of downstream and upstream team before making any changes. And then we'll track this progress, and slowly like with in the DevOps plan, I created a phase plan that in particular phase all the 4 teams should move to DevOps. When we introduce DevOps, I heavily emphasize on infrastructure as a code, and then I emphasize on like automation, doing everything with the CI/CD pipeline. And that was not like that was doing first time, so there is a lot of experiment learning and fail. And then also like we introduce that blameless postmortem. So if something goes wrong, then we need to sit together, understand what's going wrong and what we can do to not happen in the future. So those I was able to introduce that DevOps culture, creating the roadmap and having the open clear cut communication between the chapter leads, as well as keep the leadership informed about what's happening in the program. What initiative I took is having the weekly email to track the progress of, and doing the leadership update about weekly progress of this project. So that's basically the action item that I took. And like it's great that after the workshop we got good feedback, and team was working closely, and we were able to release the open account information and payment initiations API on 14th June. There was something that has like kind of uh, not fully solution, because there is a guidelines that you need to have 99.99% availability. But for that we got exception that okay, we can publish the dashboard or working on the availability of this in a certain time period. But the first priority, the like launching these APIs, we were able to launch on 14th June.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you for that. So just reiterating to ensure that I got it right. Uh, So the challenge was the team communication and establishing the DevOps practices across teams. And the, for that, you took number of actions, and that has helped actually to make the delivery on time.
Yeah.
Why do you think or where do you think you went above and beyond? Like as a solutions architect, what were your actual responsibilities and what additional responsibilities did you took that were above and beyond?
Yeah. So I'll tell you, there is concept of cash. So until unless something is not your customer is using, your company is not getting benefit. So having that business set, like okay, like going beyond for the partners and making sure that they get what they need at that time, not what they want. So ultimate aim was to launching these APIs. It's not just like my role was as API management architect to design the platform so that backend team can onboard their APIs and partners can access these APIs and work with it. But like even if my platform is ready, it's not going to help you help anybody, neither my customer, not the customer, neither my customers, immediate customers, and not my users. So I analyzed immediately that my grid owner is very new in the world of the APIs. He don't have like fully functional knowledge of how to work with open API banking projects. Then I understood because I had a DevOps experience before. I thought like until unless this team is not going to collaborate together, we will be not able to launch the product. And that's like it's not about failing on the deliveries from the government legislation. It's also about like making some feature available for the customer. And as a solution architect, that excites me more. So if I'm able to deliver anything that customer is using and I'm seeing the real time implication of it, then that makes me happy. So the opportunity was that there is no end-to-end stakeholder management accountable person who can do that and making sure the team is aligned. So that's where I went ahead beyond my duties and help grid owner to make these team together, do a workshop, create a roadmap plan, and execute on that.
That's awesome. Uh, Now let's talk more about the agile and DevOps. So you talked that the bank was undergoing a transformation from agile to DevOps. What do you mean by that?
Yeah. Before we go that, Prasad, is there any purple stream
I
of?
removed it. I removed it.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Wilson, for pointing that out.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah. So I think there is a little bit misconception around agile and DevOps. So when we talk about the DevOps, people more thought about uh, automation, and at that time there was a conjecture around that people might lose job. The way it's always like new technology comes, like people are afraid a little bit, and in the banks even more. So I give example that DevOps is finding the right people over process over tooling. So it's not about the tooling, it's about the finding the right people, set the right processes, and then accommodate those like and remove the manual work and do that through the automation. So that's my philosophy of DevOps. Well, talking about agile is talk all about the development, how it like how quickly and iterate following iterative process, and you are like delivering your product. But it's talk about your release, like you build something, that's it. But does that release went into the production and release and partner is using it, your customer is using it. So if you keep look at the KPIs of the Agile, they talk about number of sprint, number of feature released, but none of them is talking about how partner is using and how it's the feedback is. So to complete that chain, that concept of case, like something needs to be used by the partner in order to make a feature available. So that like release things should be counted once you that product that release go into the production and partner is using it. So apart from the development, there is a big chunk of work that ops team does. They make sure the platform is up, they make sure that your releases are happening on the time and everything is going as usual. So your dev and ops team align together to release a feature. Otherwise, one team will bombarded with the new features, but another team has a different KPIs. They are more focused on the platform availability. And if there is a no new feature, then platform is up and fine, and I'm fine. But to make sure that is working fine, you need to align those teams, and that's where DevOps come into the picture. How dev and ops embedded in one team work together to release on the feature. That's basically the DevOps is. Am I answering your
Okay.
question?
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you. But how did implementing DevOps help the overall delivery?
Yes. So as I was telling that, so if you look on the disparity between and the silos between dev and ops, they have a different KPIs, like maintaining the platform availability, and the dev works on the releasing the features. So they don't align both together. But if you create an embedded team, where in the Jira board where you have your task for the development, if you have the user stories for the operations works as well, and maybe you can assign that particular user story to other teams in the operation, or you can have the ops team within your team. So that's basically concept of embedded team. So if you look at, then the feature that's supposed to go live and taking a month, if you are doing this embedded team culture and doing through the automation and DevOps, then that feature, I think I have seen in my experience, like that cycle of releasing something is given in 2 weeks. So as soon as your sprint is over, your code is getting deployed, your feature has been deployed. At the same time, it is getting released to the partners to use it. So that's why the turnaround time for 4 weeks to 6 weeks to comes to 2 weeks. So that not anything is waiting for anyone. As soon as it's getting deployed, your operations team is aligned and you are releasing it.
Great, great. And you talked that you were coordinating with multiple stakeholders for different teams. Like, what challenges or roadblocks did you face in coordinating with these stakeholders? Can you give any
Yeah. So
specific example?
yeah. So as I tell, so it's depend on the culture. But if I'll talk about this specific examples, the infrastructure is completely managed by different team. And when I say the different team, it's like completely different company altogether. So banks sometimes outsource the infrastructure to particular things, development to somebody, and operation to somebody. They have their own agenda, I'll say, to work on and try to do more so that they have more accountability on certain things. So there is always a pushback when you are going to change something. There is always pushback. So here I was dealing the great pushback from the infrastructure team that, okay, if you want to release something that needs 4 weeks for us to implement and create a deployment pipeline for you and you to deploy it, then I said, it's like just setting up the expectation right. So if you like come with the kind of plan, or basically I'll use the Amazon term, like coming with the one pager or a 6 pager proposal, that this is what we want to do, this is how the success will look like, and this is the bottleneck as of now, and if we are going to work together, then this is how the problem is getting solved. So even if I get a pushback, I understand that this is the human nature. Something is working, they want to take it as it is. But I write a kind of one pager, try to compare the pros and cons, and laid out how it is going to change going forward, and what you need to do as an infrastructure team, and what I'm going to help you maintaining your infrastructure in that particular state. For example, introduction of infrastructure as a code, and when I'm deploying infrastructure through the cloud formation or any other tool in for that matter, then they get a confidence, okay, if there is a requirement, then I will be able to replicate this infrastructure again. So that gives a confidence to them even though there was a pushback.
Cool. Okay. So finally, what were the learnings from this project, or what would you do differently if you do this project all over again?
Yeah. So in terms of the learning, what I will say is, like, never assume that you are always right, because people are working in a certain direction, team is working in the certain direction because they are doing right thing for their team. So it's all about understanding that how to bring everyone on the common platform, having the same understanding, bridging the gap of the knowledge, having the open communication. That's the essential part. So if you are handling the communication right, then handling the multiple stakeholders is not a big deal, and that's what I need to improve on going forward. So if I have to do it from the very beginning, it's all about like doing the team building exercise first. Make sure that you know each other, like you know the capabilities or kind of strength of each other, and you know how each team is working and what are their focus on. So you need to create an operating plan. You need to be like more embedded teams, having workshop together, then having the team building exercise, then going back to creating operating plan, having a frequent feedback loop, so that something don't go to the part like users and come back, that has a different altogether different life cycle. But if something you release and your tester finds out, that has a very short feedback loop. So shorten the feedback loop as soon as possible and then release the product effectively.
Great. Thank you so much. Let's end the role play.
Thank you.
Cool. And thank you, Parna, for answering so many questions in the chat. I know I'm not sure how you are keeping up with answering so many questions, but thank you so much. You're doing awesome. Uh, so let's do a very quick. I know we are over time. We thought we will be finishing this section in 45 minutes, but let's take another 5 minutes to quickly debrief about this interview. Great couple. I l- loved the calmness that you had overall while you are answering, which is great. It's always good to be in a relaxed manner while you are answering. So whenever you face an interview, it's very natural that you are nervous, right? But you need to develop that over the time, that you are not showing that nervousness or eagerness to hire me in the interview, right? It's more, think about it as a discussion that is happening, and you can see that while Kapil was answering, how calm he was while doing it. Starting from the very beginning, like he asked a clarifying question. So whenever there is a question and you need to understand the question better, don't hesitate in asking that clarifying question. So great job on that, Kapil. And you took some time to think about. So see, when we prepare for interviews, especially for interviews for big companies, you do prepare for a lot of questions and answers, and there is no harm in taking a moment to understand that question and think in your mind that which story of yours maps to that, and then start answering that, instead of like the moment question finishes and you start like answering. If you are prepared, why not? If you know exactly in your mind which one do you want to answer, go ahead. If not, no harm in taking that extra 5-10 seconds to gather your thoughts and answering. So great. The only feedback I would be having is the answers seem to be bit long. You might lose the interviewer, so see how you can make it a bit more crisp. um, but I like the way the flow went in the way that uh, you were able to paint the picture about how the banking was going through a digital transformation, the different themes that you mentioned. So uh, even if a person is not from a digital transformation background or a banking background, they will be able to visualize and they will be able to understand that yes, you have been in that situation, right? So in that ways, great. uh, as you all can see, the focus of the answer, though it's a question where we as solutions architect who has experience can easily provide some technical response. Like question was, when did you went above and beyond, right? It can be a very simple, that you created a very complex architecture or simplified a complex architecture, and you helped that. But the answer was focused here more on people and delivery and timelines and communication, which is also very important aspect, right? So when you are preparing your answers, ensure that you have mix of both technical answers as well as answers where you have done more than just technical, because that's what is expected from a solutions architect, right? uh, so yeah, overall great. And as you can see, there were a lot of follow-up questions, and Kapil was able to answer to those follow-up questions. That's we something we call it as peeling the onion, or we dive deep, right? And you will see this more in the technical questions also, if we ever do a technical like a question mock interview, that we try and keep digging and digging and digging to see whether the person has actually worked on that or to what extent the person has worked on those things. I'll take a pause here. Kapil, I'll let you share your experience.
Yeah, I'll try to answer one question of the group.
Okay.
So I think Chetia, if I'm pronouncing your name right,
Cynthia. I
Cynthia.
believe it will be Cynthia.
Cynthia, sorry. So that's up to you to decide. If my story is convincing enough, then I have done this in real life. If I'm not able to convincing enough, then I'm faking it. So that's what I leave to interviewer and you folks to decide. Yeah, so that's the thing. Um, in
No,
terms
and
of
that's a very good point, Kapil, to just add to on that, right? So like in India, in Hindi, we have a phrase like, uh, चोरी तब तक नहीं जब तक पकड़े ना जाए. What it translates to is that you are not a thief unless you're caught, right? So no one would be able to uh, kind of know whether you are faking or not unless you show it. And how would you show it? If you have not prepared it well, right? Irrespective of whether the scenario is correct or wrong, I, as an interviewer who is interacting with the interviewee for 1 hour, I'll have a limited time to understand. And how I'll understand is that I peel the onion. That's what I say, peel the onion. We keep diving deep, asking more and more questions. And then we will be able to know whether the person response is that whether the person has actually done the specific thing or not. And believe me, it's very easy to find out in real interviews because it also comes with the confidence. And that's where the preparation comes into picture. Even if you have been in situation, if you have not prepared well, what happens is that interviewer will ask a question which you will not be able to recall instantly. And then you will start thinking, and then your body language would show that, okay, the person is not confident. And that's when we will take the cues, right? It's a very tight rope, thin balance to work on, right? So uh, try and prepare well. That's what I would say. Sorry, Kapil, go ahead.
No, I was just saying that there is a lot of question how to prepare and everything. So my thing is like you need to rehearse the story first. You need to master the storytelling so that there is a connection and you don't lose the track even though your story is long. And don't reject yourself. So whenever you are appearing for the interviews or applying for it, if you are not sure, just apply it. So that's the one thing. And when it comes to about this role play, how I see it, I think it went well. Only thing that you likely point out, Prasad, is like try to be concise a little bit. And I'm not
But
sure that you need to tell me that maybe I was too rapid discussing
no,
it, but yeah.
you're fine. It was fine. I like the see. Sometimes what happens is that, and this is a problem with me also. I speak very fast, right? Thankfully, you have not done that because uh, it's very important for the interviewer to understand what the interviewee is saying. So you were calm in that way, right? And you are taking normal process and stuff. Uh, yeah, it could have been concise, but it's okay. It was not like you kept on blabbering for 30 minutes. It didn't happen like that. You were able to do it within 5-10 minutes max, or so it was fine, I believe. But yes, obviously there's a scope for improvement. So we can see how we can make it a bit more concise and precise.
One thing that I'll share with the folks that this time positive feedback I got about my pace. So before this, all the interviews that I have done is like maybe you're technically sound, you are doing the needful that we need, but if you can slow down, that would have been better. So it's all about practice. So if you do the practice a lot, even though you know that you speak fast or you try to rush, that comes naturally when you do the speaking a lot.
Oh yes, definitely, and something that you we all improve over the time. Um,
Yeah.
right. Okay. Are there any specific questions we should be taking from the audience? How much time do you have? We are almost, oh, okay, we have just half an hour left. I think we should switch gear and move to the part two, Kapil,
Yeah.
where we can do that. Yeah,
Yes.
and while we do this, as I was telling everyone, we have started a Discord channel. So let me put the link of the Discord channel again, for anyone who has joined late. So we are starting a Discord channel for BeSA. So we would be having a lot of conversations there. I see there is a bot that is adding a lot of welcome messages. So ignore that. We will fix it. We are still experimenting about how we should be setting. So yeah, feel free to join the Discord channel and let's keep the community conversations going on there and help each other. With that, Kapil, do you want to share your screen? And
Yes. Mm,
oh,
Let me know if you guys are able to see my screen.
hold on, I'll do that now. Screen layout, add to stage. Okay, yes.
So, thank you, everyone. I think this role play might have been useful for you. And I can't emphasize enough, if you are appearing for the not interviews, if you are preparing for the exams, the 50% of your preparation comes through the practice exams. So if you haven't started practicing for the exams, then it's the right time to do it. And don't wait for until the end that, okay, once all the session will complete, I will go and start doing these practice sets. I'm sorry, sometimes it's I'm messing up and mock interviews coming up. But yeah, so coming back to practicing the exams. So even if you are thinking to take the exams, it's the right time to take the practice set. Don't wait for uh, completing your course first. So as the previous sessions, we are going to take 1 or 1.5 minute, depending on the length of the question, and then we will discussing the answers. So here we go.
Kapil, you need to zoom in a bit. And if you can, yeah, remove the side pane, zoom a bit, so that only the question mainly is, like kind of
Give me
takes the
one.
space.
Okay, that's the first thing. Let me do one thing. So what I will be doing for this is I will change the
Yeah, and there are a lot of, what you call, side spaces. Can you reduce the side space by zooming in?
let me see. Let's for now increase the size. I'll figure
Yeah,
it out how to do that.
yeah. That's for now increase the size.
Is it readable enough?
I'll let the audience say that it's okay now, or do you want size to be increased more? PD saying zoom, please. Let me do one thing. Hold on. Let me remove us. I think it should be better. What I'll do. Go ahead, Kapil. Now it should be fine now.
Okay. How
Yeah,
about now? Is
yeah,
okay?
it's fine. Go ahead.
Okay. So I think you guys might have read it. So let me read out the question and dive deep into the answer. So government agency has a requirement to store document that will be accessed by the serverless application. So here the key, the important is serverless application. Document will be accessed frequently for 3 months. That's also second thing. And rarely after that. Document must be retained for the 7 years. What the most cost effective solution to meet this requirement? So key thing is, like, you need to make sure that what the solution is right when you are accessing frequently for 3 months, and later on you need to retain for 7 years after that. So let's dive deep into. I immediately, from my experience or looking at this by knowledge, I think this is the perfect case for the S3, but that will keep in mind and go and read the options. Store the document encrypted EBS. I think that's not the right solution. Then EFS is also not the right solution. Store the document secured in S3 bucket with the lifecycle policy to move the document that are older than 3 months to the glacier, and expire the document after the glacier after 7 years old. That looks great, but it's about the finding the best suited. Then we'll read the fourth one also. Here it says like create a lambda function to delete the document from the S3 bucket. That's where it's going wrong. We don't need, there is a lifecycle policy. We don't need to delete this through the lambda. So that's where the option C is correct. And the purpose of this question to be here, that if you haven't brushed up your skills on the ABS, EFS, and S3, then it's the right time to do that. So the two key takeaways from this question is understanding the EBS and EFS, and the EBS different type of volume, the input output for both, and comparison with S3 a little bit. And one last thing that you need to focus on from here, from this question, is focus on the life cycle policies and different tier of S3. For example, on demand, standard one, and the one zone, and the glacier another. Give me 1 second while I'll give the time to read the second question. This is the second question. Let's guys take another 1 minute, and then we'll go into the discussion.
Kapil, see if you can pinch and zoom a bit. It will be helpful. Is it possible? No?
No, give me 1 second.
The browser setting, you can just increase the browser setting if possible to zoom.
No, just give me 1 second, please.
Yeah.
How about now?
Let me see. Hold on. Add to stage. Oh, yeah, perfect.
Yeah. Are we ready? Let me read out. So, a video production company is planning to move some of its workload to AWS cloud. Okay, the company will require 5 TB storage, video processing with possible input output performance, maximum possible input output performance. That is the key part. They are also require 400 TB extremely durable storage for storing the video files, and 800 TB for storing long-term archival. Which of the combination of the service should a solution architect use to meet the requirement? If the question is looking a little bit daunting to you and you are not able to make the judgment, don't spend too much time, jump into the answers immediately. So if you see, the key part is for the maximum input output performance. That's the key part. So Amazon is instance store. We know that instance store has a maximum performance. So we'll take that and move forward. Then EBS, for the maximum performance, we know that instance is much better than EBS. Then we'll go for the EC2 instance store. Yes. And then we have an EFS for the durable data storage, and S3 for the archival. So if you see 1 and C, there is a difference in S3 for the durable data storage, and here the EFS is for the durable storage. Then the last one, EBS for the maximum performance. So that's not right thing. There is a comparison between A and C, And A is correct because for the durable storage and cheaper storage, you might want to use S3, not EFS. EFS has a like very very unique use case when you will be not able to choose anything else other than EFS. So that's the homework, and that you need to figure it out. Purpose of the question is you need to well understand the EFS and S3 use cases and performance of the each. I have included some link here, so take time to go through that.
So Kapil, a lot of people thought it would be B. Okay. So you need to probably explain why EC2 instance store over EBS for maximum performance.
Yes. So you need to understand how the EBS and instance store works. So instance store is like directly attached with the machine. It's not a network storage. So maximum the way it is designed, the maximum performance comes from the instance stores that is attached to your machine itself, CPU. That's why if something goes, like, you will be not able to recover your data if your machine rebooted or that machine got abrupted. So you need to understand, if that is not clear, then it's the right time to dive deep and see how the EBS and instance store works. That's the basically difference.
Yeah, cool. Thanks.
You want to add
Let's
anything in this?
no, let's move. That's perfect. And there is a link there, or you can simply Google Amazon EC2 instance store. And
Yeah, but it's a crucial. If that is a confusion, then do invest time understanding
yeah,
how different volumes attached to EC2 instance works. And
exactly.
it's all about the performance of the instance store, EBS, different type of EBS, EFS, and S3. And do compare the cost. Let's take the question number 3.
Kapil, we are not able to see the full last option.
Yeah, let's read the
Scroll
question first, and
and then
once I'll read, then we will able to.
perfect, perfect.
Okay, I'll start. So, database administrator update the password in the RDS database to comply with the security policy. The security shortly after the update, several Lambda functions that access the database start failing, and the user received the error indicating invalid credentials. Upon investigation, solution architect discover the Lambda function uses hard code credential, positive security risks. Architect needs to address the errors and enhance the credential security. Which are two solution you can the solution architect implement to address the errors and improve the credential security for the Lambda function with at least development environments, least development efforts. So as soon as I read this, and there is a lot of text, so probably you need to get in a habit how to read fast or focus on the key things. Again, the question is how to deal with hard coded credentials. And as soon as I see this, I need to think of, or that should come automatically in my mind, is secrets manager and parameter stores. So let's take the look of the options. The secret manager securely store the database credential update. Here, the first option talk about the secrets manager. Then second is IAM role. IAM role is good thing that do a lot of stuffs, but not deal with your username and password. You will be not able to do that and access the database through the Lambda. So if the database has a username and password, then you need to store either into the parameter stores or secret manager. And then Lambda functions retrieve the database credential through the environment variables in parameter stores. Yeah, that's the second thing. Encrypt hard coded using KMS. It's not required because you can do with a minimal effort with the secrets manager and the parameter stores. And then you have a federated authentication Lambda for the RDS database to add credential storage. No, that's also not deal with storing the your like username and passwords credentials. So option A and C is right. So purpose of this question to having the understanding about the secrets manager and parameter stores, understand the differences because that's important. Let's take the question number 4. Yeah, so a company uses EC2 reserved instance to run data processing workload. The nightly job typically takes 7 hours to run and must finish within 10-hour time window. The companies anticipate temporary increase in demand at the end of the month. Important part, temporary increase at the end month end, and that will cause the job run will over the time limit with the capacity of the current resources. Once started, the processing job cannot be interrupted before completion. The company wants to implement a solution that would provide increased resource capacity as the cost effective as possible. So here we are dealing with temporary increase. That's the one thing. And you need to make sure that you are finishing the job within the right time frame. So deploy the on demand. Yes, on demand can be a right thing for temporary increase, but we'll keep in mind and move forward. Create a second EC2 reserve instance. You should not have a reserve instance for the on like kind of this kind of temporary increase. A spot instance is good thing, but cannot guarantee that availability of a spot instance. So you may not able to ensure that your job is finishing on time. And increasing the EC2 instance size. So if you are increasing the size, that is a vertical scaling basically, and you don't want to do that for the temporary workload. So the correct answer is on demand instance. Let's read the question number 5th. So a company has a two-tier application. That's the important two-tier application we are talking about. That runs public and private subnet. Amazon EC2 instance running the web application that are public subnet, and EC2 instance for the databases running the private subnet perfectly. The web application instance and the database are running in a single availability zone. Okay, that's not a good thing to do. Which combination of the steps should a solution architect take to provide highly availability architecture? We are talking about highly availability. Okay, we'll go and see. And we are talking about two-tier applications. Okay, create a new public and private subnet in the same AG. Same AG is not a right solution when we talk about high availability. Create a EC2 instance in auto scaling group. Application load balancer is spanning multiple AZ for the web application instance. Yeah, that's doable, and that's one thing that we should be keeping in mind. Add a existing web application instance and auto scaling group behind the application load balancer. Yeah, but it doesn't talk about spanning availability zones. Create a new public and private subnet in AG. Create a database using EC2 instance in the public subnet in the new AG. Migrate old databases component to the new databases. Yeah, agree. But immediately, even after before reading to the last one, I'm thinking better to use RDS rather than databases, on-prem databases, or like install databases on EC2 instance. Create a new public and private subnet for the same VPC, each in new AG. Create an Amazon RDS multi-AG database instance in the private subnet. Migrate old databases to the new DBs. Yes, that's the right one. So basically, we are talking about RDS for highly availability in multi-AG, and we are taking care of the web application in load balance behind the load balancer in the multi-AG application. So two-tier application, we address the application as well as the database. Let's take the question number 6. So to manage a large number of AWS accounts in a better way, you create an AWS organization and invite multiple accounts. You only enable consolidated billing out of two feature sets, all the feature and consolidated billing available in AWS organization. Which of the feature is primary benefit of the using consolidated billing? So this is most popular question, I think, for the solution architect exam. So consolidated billing has nothing to do with SCP. Configure tag, that is also nothing to do with consolidated billing. Configure the policy to prevent IAM users, not likely. Combine the usage across all the accounts to share the volume of the pricing discounts. That's the feature of consolidated billing, that you can combine all the usage together. And AWS model that as like the services, as long you use, like the larger you use, you pay less. The more you use, the lesser you pay. That's so option, the last option is correct for this. Let's take a read of question number 7. Okay, a financial institute has deployed a critical web application in AWS Cloud. The management is looking for the resilient solution with RTO and RPO within 10 minutes. If you haven't looked for the RTO and RPO, there is a white paper on that. Please do read that. So that's an important thing. And there is a question on the RTO and RPO. There is at least one question for sure in the exam. They have budget constraint. That is the second key thing. And the cost of provisioning the backup infrastructure should not be very high. So this is the key part of this question. As a solution architect, you have been assigned to work on setting a resilient solution, meeting the RTO or RPO requirement within the cost constraint. What is the perfectly suited perfectly? Multi-site active is the costliest. Warm standby is second costliest. Warm up and backup and store is, I think, will not be able to meet the requirement of the 10-minute, even though you can claim, but you cannot guarantee it. So, in terms of the meeting and RPO and RTO and making sure the cost is not very high, the pilot light is a right options. Let's take the read of question number 8. A web application is deployed on a EC2 instance, which is launched in the private subnet of VPC. The application is fetching the data from S3 as well as DynamoDB. The communication between EC2 instance and S3 as well as DynamoDB should be secure and should not traverse over the inter, internet links. The connectivity also support accessing the data from S3 to on-premise network in the future. So we are talking about the private access to DynamoDB and S3 bucket, and we are also talking about private access to on-premise. So think about as soon as you see the private link, not going on internet links, and it's a private access. Then think about the gateway endpoint and interface endpoint. What is the difference in these two? That's very important, and you need to go through that. And so if we take a look of that, then the first option is right, like having access with the gateway endpoint and interface endpoint. NAT gateway is not right thing because it will go into the public internet. In the same region, third option is not right. And S3 and DynamoDB instance is private subnet gateway endpoint. That's okay, but that do not talk about how will you access the privately the resources in your on-premise. So that's the region option A is right. Which of the following is not a category in AWS Stress Test Advisor Service Check? And there is a 5 or 6. I think you need to go through that. But for now, cost optimization is one, fault tolerance is one, service limit is yes, network is not an option there for Trusted Advisor. I'm rushing a bit so that we conclude this on time. A website that runs a custom web application that receive the breast of traffic each day at noon. The user upload new picture, the content daily, but having been complaining for the timeouts, yes, it means your instance is not ready. The architecture uses EC2 auto scaling group, and the application consistently take 1 minute to initiate upon the boot up before responding to the request. See, this is the key issue. That's why the request is failing. How should a solution architect redesign the architecture to better respond to change in traffic? So Load balancer is distributing traffic, nothing to do with the slow start. Configure elastic cache or Redis, not really. We should be doing the auto scaling, and that to step scaling policy for the EC2 to keep EC2 instance warm up. That's the right option. CloudFront is not something that makes your EC2 instance warm. So in for that regions, it's option C. I hope you learn a lot. There is a good bunch of use cases that I try to cover. I have given a link. So please take time to go through. If you have a question, feel free to reach out to us, either me or Prasad. We are happy to help and make sure that you are set for the your exam.
Yeah,
I'm
and
sharing.
Parna is also
Yes, Lee.
helping with.
Yeah,
Yeah, thank you so
absolutely.
much, Parna,
Thank
for
you.
joining. And I know you are out, and still you are joining and helping us. Thank you so
Ownership.
much. Yeah, bias for action, ownership both. So yeah, cool. Okay, folks, thank you so much for attending. I'll at the end paste the Discord channel link again for everyone to join, and yeah, keep the questions going on the interaction going on in the community. We'll fix any issues with the bot there. But any ideas that you have that how we should be running the community, BeSA community on the Discord, uh, we are more than welcome. We are more than open to hear the feedback and welcome all the inputs. Thank you again. See you all next week.
Thank you.